Hi, this is John next door with my new video tutorial, which is on how to make this card, which is a TriFold flip card, like this. I'm showing this tutorial and doing this today because loads and loads of you asked how to do it when I showed this on my blog a couple of weeks ago. It was very, very popular. Now this card is made using the new Suw Wilson craft die from Creative Expressions, and this is made with the Spanish Collection background die and also Spellbinders Curved Borders 2, and I'm using 2 of the dies from that one. I'm just going to pull out, it's a plain, simple cutting edge and then the filigree edge, and I'm going to show you how to put that together to do the first die cuts in a second. First of all, just show you through the card. As you can see on the front, and it folds out, and hopefully this can all be got in the shop, but probably not. You've got a centre panel of the die cut and 2 sides. The middle sections are loaded here and one in the middle. For more pictures, have a look at my blog, www.johnnextdoor.blogspot.com, and it folds in like that, and I've just decorated it. So for today's tutorial I'm going to make it in a slightly different colour because you don't want the same card in the same colour. So I'm starting with some ivory or rich cream hammered cardstock from Paper Mill Direct, and this is about a 250 GSM card. And to start with the die cuts I'm going to need 4 pieces A5 size, so I've just ripped these down into A5 pieces, and this is the first piece. So I've got the filigree section, which I'm just going to place on the top as even as I can, and as you can see I've used this one before, and I'm just going to put the cutting edge against it as well, straighten it up and tape that down with the low tack tape. Not that low tack as you can see because I've pulled some off, but low tack's very hard to find here. Next, taking the border, I'm going to line it up, the background, sorry, I'm going to line it up in the centre. Now helpfully, on this particular die, there are 2 dots at the centre point, but you can also see with most spellbinders there's little notches to show you which is the size they call A2, which I believe is an American size. So I'm placing it in the right place and I'm taping over that gap there. And again, taping over there so that it doesn't move. It's quite sturdy. Next, I simply run that through my die cutting machine, which I'm going to go and do now. Right, we're back. I've just run that through my grand caliper. Now it did take 2 passes that way and 2 passes that way, just to make sure that every area is cut. However, it's not a very deep sandwich and none of the dies overlap, so it doesn't cause a problem. So next, I'm just simply using my handy scalpel, which I have still from art college 20 years ago. A new blade, of course. Going to remove the tape and take off the top and remove the Spellbinders border top. There we go. A few little spots haven't cut out, so I'll just poke those through. But I'll neaten that up later. There we go, these are coming off. But I'll neaten the rest of that one up slightly later. There we go. Right, now with the die still in the card, I'm now going to ink it. Now I've used a matching coloured ink and I'm using a deep red colour for the background, so I'm using a similar chalk based ink, and I'm going to mask off the top because I don't want to colour that, and then simply Going to ink through the die, doesn't matter about the sides. All I'm going to show you at the moment is I'm not going to ink the lot because that takes an awful lot of time. But what I am doing is taking care when I'm inking the centre square, because I want that to look quite nice, because that's quite obvious on the design. So we're going to pretend I've inked all of that. So we'll move those out of the way and just remove the die. So I've removed the die, and one of the things I absolutely love about these Suw Wilson dies is they are such good quality. They clean up really well, but also they come out so cleanly, and literally one bang and most of the pieces start to come out. My neighbours think I'm mad because I'm always banging metal on the desk, but hey, there we go. So there we go. As you can see, I've coloured most of the top part. So now I'm going to cut it down. Now, on each side of the border, there is quite a strong line. I'm going to cut there so you can actually see it. Just cut that out a little bit so you can see it. Right. And what I'm wanting to do is to cut down that line and effectively follow the line where the dots are if it's coloured completely. So I'm taking that side off, repeating it on the other side. Now I'm quite lucky in that my rule has graduations in it, and it so happens that the edge to cut is 1/2 centimetre from this last cut line here, if that makes sense to you. However, you can go by the dots and just line it up against the dots. Again, same with the bottom. And there I have the basic shape cut out. Next I need to remove the centre. I'm just going to show you one of these, and again, all I'm doing is lining up the dots and making sure there's a little edge, and then I'm cutting down to the bottom, and again on the other side. Doing the two edges, just like that, and then going in with my scalpel to nip out the corners because I don't want to overrun. So we'll just nip out the little corners. Let's turn that one round. There we go. And that takes out that piece there. Now that piece I'm going to use later, so I need to keep that. So we're going to imagine that basically I've cut this out 3 times. Next, what I want to do is to load that onto a piece of contrasting card. Now I'm not going to show you the die cut on this one, but I'll show you the principle. All I do is place just the cutting edge from the Spellbinder's curved borders on the top, run that through my grand caliper, and that will give me a curved edge. Next, I then place that die cut onto there with foam pads, and I simply, I'll use this one which is one of the front pieces, cut a 1 centimetre border all the way round. With the centre panel, all I've actually done there is to place my ruler against the edge, just like that, and cut out the piece that's in the centre. As you can see there, I've not been particularly neat on that one, so I can just hand cut that last piece out. That gives me that piece there. Now that piece I repeat again, so I've got 2, and then a 3rd time, so that I've got 3, and all I've done this time is I cut a random one of the die cuts of the background, cut it out, mistakenly inked it there, inked it, and then I've foam mounted it. I cut here a 1 centimetre border on the red background card so that it's got a border. But how you do the final piece or the last piece is entirely up to you. On the original card, I cut it out completely exactly the same, and then I placed some tulle behind it like that. So that's up to you. I've got my 3 pieces. Next I need to work out the flip section, and this is done relatively simply. For a start, I need 2 pieces which are cut to 23 centimetres by 8.5, and I have those there. And next I need to create the folds. So I've taken a piece of the card which is 18 centimetres, and I'll show you how I do that. Using my score pal, I marked a piece of A4 at 18 centimetres, and then I simply score down at 6 and 12. Right, so I have 2 hinges, and I'm going to show you next what to do to actually marry them up. So I folded it into 3 like that, and I want to put the first edge here because I want it to fold like that. I want it to fold out like that, if that makes sense. So flat, valley, mountain like that. For the other side, I need to rotate that way so that I have and fold it differently so that I have flat and mountain, so that I actually have 2 pieces that are cut the opposite ways. So I'm going to carefully marry up the edge of the die cut piece I've created against that edge. Then using a pencil I'm going to mark the curve and mark the aperture. Next I'm going to cut out slightly beyond the pencil lines because I don't want the pencil lines to be seen, and again at the top, and I'm cutting through 2 layers of card here. When I get to the end I'm cutting straight across so that I have a piece that looks just like that. Taking my scalpel and my trusty metal-edged ruler, let's turn it round the other way, I'm going to then cut down that edge, making sure I'm going through both layers of card, and again just nip the corners out. I don't like to overshoot because it leaves messy lines. Just got a little corner there, that's out. And now I've already done that with the other side, so that I have 2 pieces like that. Okay, next take one of your die cuts, and that needs to be stuck on. So I'm a big fan of glue runners, although normally when I did the original one I used double-sided tape and a little bit of wet glue to make sure it was strong, but for speed I'm using the tape runner, and again marry it up just like that to make sure that I have then a bracket. I'm going to have to repeat that on the second side, so sorry, you're going to have to watch this for a second time. But as you can see I'm going along every edge, and I would run tape along that. I take another one of my front pieces and again marry it up until, there we go, I'm happy. So then I have 2 pieces and a bracket. Next, I take one of the pieces of card that I'd already cut, and again I would normally use a lot stronger than this, and I place that just in front of the fold there. Now don't worry if it doesn't match up there, which it doesn't, because I'll neaten that off at the end. So I've got my first fold. I then slide on my second piece to make sure that they match, which they do there. Now you'll find each time, because of cutting irregularities, they may not match exactly. As you can see there, I've got a slight little bit of a border, which I didn't anticipate. But again, not a problem. I'm just going to run that slightly down there. Slightly down there. Put some more tape on. And this time I'm making sure, before I completely stick it down, which is one of the reasons to use the wet glue, that I've got perfectly aligned in the centre, and then I press it down. That gives me that, which gives me that sort of fold. Okay. Now, as I said, I will neaten off the insides before the card's finished. Next, all I need to do then is to foam mount this in the centre. As you can see, I've put the centre piece in. I've just foam mounted it, and I made sure that everything matched with the exact centre before I did. Then it's just simply down to you to decorate. The other thing I've done is to place the other piece of card on the back to neaten up the hinges so they're not so visible. It's very important, I think, when you're sending a card, to make sure that the person who's receiving it gets it really neat and clean, and it's not just made for effect. So here, where I've slightly overdone the first piece, I'm just now cutting it so that it lines up in a straight line across the back, which hopefully you can see straight there. Just as bias on the back as it is on the front. Now, it's down to you then to decorate it. On my original card, I used the centre sections in the middle on the fold, foam mounted, some seam binding, and then another one in the centre, just like that. And I've cut here, to show you exactly what I mean. The centre middle from the dies has been stuck to the centre middle from the backing card, like that. They've been foam mounted and matted and layered, so that I've 2 pieces there, which can be adhered there and tied with a bow, or however you want to decorate it. The centrepiece there has been loaded onto some scrap card, and then again double mounted, and that would fit there, and I've just stamped this with Dream. Now, I'm going to go and finish this card and decorate it my way. I'm probably not going to do it the way I did originally with those bits, for the simple fact that I like to make them different every time. But that's how I did that one, and you can see all the steps by steps that do it. For now, enjoy!